Hello again from 105.5 and 90.9 The Vine Radio. I'm Randy Olson, and we want to say welcome to all of our viewers as well on local cable TV in 11 different communities, as well as on our YouTube channel. We have a special interview session that we're going to share with you today. A couple of gentlemen who are in studio with us, and the title of this is Grateful for a Second Chance, and these two guys are certainly grateful for a second chance, and we want to say hello to Gary Griffith and Curt Wood. Gary's on the left and Curt is on the right. Hi, gentlemen. Thanks for coming to the Vine. Good to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks to be here.
You bet. And you know what? I really want to say how great it is to see you guys upright and actually, you know, living life daily and enjoying every breath you take and literally every heartbeat, because life has a whole new meaning for you guys now, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Every day.
And that's really what we're here for today, is to discuss, is grateful for a second chance. Many of you watching from the Fairfield area, you probably know these two guys, and you may know a little bit of their story and the fact that they got a second lease on life by virtue of organ donation. But some of you listening or watching from some of the more distant communities may not know the story of Curt and Gary, and we're going to go kind of in-depth about it today, because you guys have really been on a roller coaster ride over the last, even a longer story for you, Curt, because yours actually goes all the way back to 2012, and Gary, your journey began in early 2014, right?
That's correct.
So let's talk about, first of all, how you guys are feeling today, because Curt, you have a new heart.
Yes.
And what's it feel like to live life each day with someone else's heart beating in your chest?
I'm coming to terms with it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little surreal at one time, but you know, I'm so blessed.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, and the same for you as well, Gary, because you are a recipient of double lung transplant.
That's right. Randy.
And again, a very long story, and again, every breath you take it is new and fresh, isn't it?
And I'm thankful for it.
Yeah.
Yes, and thankful for my donor.
I'm sure that you are. Now, neither one of you know who your donors are, right? No. Is that something that someday you would like to know? Or you need to think about that a little bit?
Yeah, I would have to think about that, but go ahead.
No.
Yeah, in a way I would, just to thank them for being a donor.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I know they have issues to think about that too.
Sure, their families do, certainly. Yeah, Gary, you're
I'm like Curt. You do that with kind of a reserved thought, you know. I don't need to know all the detail of my donor. I'm just thankful I have one. We both know limited information about our donors. I guess the bottom line is we're both here talking today and alive and breathing, and that's the important part.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, and the thing about it is, you know, let's be real, let's be honest, and the fact is, you know, two people had to die in order for you two guys to live. And that is really a surreal thing to think about, as you said, Curt, because it's something that has become very, very important to both of you, because now you guys are trying to go around and get people to understand the importance of organ donation, and you're advocates for that, aren't you?
Very much so.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand really some of the myths, I think, for organ donation. Wouldn't you say that that's true?
Yes.
And we're going to get into some of those here. And it's real easy to be an organ donor, and you can find out a lot of information through the Secretary of State's office, and really that's where you sign up at, is the same place you get your driver's license. And the website lifegoeson.com is an easy way for you to sign up and register to be an organ or tissue donor. And there's really a lot of myths and misunderstandings about being a donor and things like that, isn't there, guys?
Yes, there is.
I think so.
Even part of it goes back to religious beliefs. So.
And really, every religion looks upon organ donation as something very acceptable for the most part. I mean, but some people think that there's a myth out there that some people believe that, well, if my loved one or my family member is an organ donor, that's going to delay funeral services or burial or something like that, and that's not true.
No, it's not.
And so many other things that people don't really understand. But I understand from the Secretary of State's office that if you are an organ donor, you can actually end up helping as many as 25 people. Isn't that right? 25 people, I believe, because you're looking at all the different types of organs and things like that that can be donated. But let's go back here to our video feed here, and we've got some things that we want to roll through, and we'll just begin by telling both of your stories here, and we'll kind of go back and forth, and we're showing a picture here of you, Gary. This was back really before this all began, and you look pretty healthy, and you were, because you really were not a sick person at all, were you?
Not at all. I had never had any problems. Hardest medicines I'd ever taken maybe was an aspirin for a headache once in a while. I'd been in very good health up until the age of 62.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people who end up having to need a lung transplant are people that you would call, I guess you'd call them self-inflicted. They're people who maybe got that way because they were a smoker or something else that might have harmed their lungs or something like that. But that's not the case in your situation, is it?
No, sir. Never smoked. Mine was a hereditary type pulmonary fibrosis. So I know exactly where it came from. It was my father who died with this at 87.
Okay. All right. And you were diagnosed in January of 2014 by Dr. Steve Mitchell in Fairfield. And at what age were you, Gary, whenever you were diagnosed then?
I would have been 62.
62.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And let's go on here to some more video that we have here, some more pictures that you guys have shared with us, and we do appreciate you selling those. Here's Curt with his motorcycle, and this is before all of everything started happening to you, Curt. And again, a healthy guy, just like Gary, and had no reason to think that anything was going to happen to you whatsoever, right?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
It just overnight, though, it happened.
Mm-hmm. And actually, your situation started out with a stroke, didn't it? I
Right.
mean, you started out by having a TIAs,
Mm-hmm.
and you were diagnosed with CHF, and this was going all the way back to October 30th, which was actually Halloween night, 2012. Walk us back to that date and what you remember about that.
Oh, the day of it?
Yeah.
Well, we were getting ready to go to a party, and my wife told me to get up and get dressed. You
Mm-hmm.
know. Well, I was talking to her, but I was not intelligible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she couldn't understand anything.
You're slurring and things like that.
Worse than that.
Yeah.
But they took me to the hospital, flew me to Evansville. A lot of it I don't remember. They got me into Evansville and started looking for what was wrong, why it happened, and it went to my heart. And
Mm-hmm.
That's when we started doctoring there.
Mm-hmm. And you were off work for 3 months after those TIAs, and you started seeing a doctor, trying to figure out what's going on. You eventually go back to work in January of 2013.
Right.
But, complications continue to develop, and then you end up having to go to Indianapolis to start meeting with an oncologist in July of 2013, and then things, I guess, just really started to unravel at that time, didn't they?
Yes, it did.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting stories we have to share today here on this interview session on Vine Radio and on Vine Television. Now, this was a picture of you and your wife, Judy, that was taken actually after the TIAs,
Mm-hmm.
and so, you seemingly look okay there, but really you were going through a lot of different things at that point, right?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll get more in depth into your story here. And here you get into the LVAD, and the LVAD is really a device that you carry in a vest, and I was kind of joking with you when you'd come in to where your wife and I work together. You kind of look like a fly fisherman because you have all these devices in your vest there.
That's exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Fly.
And so you look like you were on a permanent fishing expedition or something there, but really that's what was keeping you alive and sustaining you, because
That made me mobile.
yeah. But even before you got that, though, you actually had a pacemaker. So the first step was actually a pacemaker.
Right.
But the pacemaker was not the answer, and you continued to have hospitalization situations there in July of 2013, and finally you were told by a 5-member cardiac team in Indianapolis that really your heart was in complete failure. So what did you feel like then when they told you, hey, your heart is in complete failure?
What can you do?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Yeah.
They told me you get the LVAD or else.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
No question. Anyone would chose that.
And how old were you when this all?
54.
54. Okay, still pretty young. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And still some years ahead of you to be able to work and whatnot. So this was a total total change in your life. That's for sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. So you're wearing this vest, this fly fisherman vest, for a long time. This LVAD, and isn't technology a wonderful thing that they have these things that can literally replace a failing heart, and you had the support obviously of many family members, and we see some of them there as well. But then after you got that LVAD, you went into several situations where you were in and out of rehab places too, and I'm sure that had to be difficult. And I know your wife Judy had shared with us a few times how you really wanted to go home, and you were bound determined that you were going to go home, right?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I can get all the help in Fairfield that I could get there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And let's see what else we have here on our slides we can share with you. As we continue with this segment, Grateful for a Second Chance, let's switch over now and let's talk to Gary. And Gary, this is a horrible picture, and it's going to be shocking to a lot of people out there watching on cable TV and on our YouTube channel right now. But that is reality, and that's a situation that you are in, because after you were diagnosed, let's go back, after you were diagnosed by Dr. Mitchell, you had to go through a period, first of all, of being assessed. And you went to Denver, Colorado, which is a leading respiratory hospital in the nation, for your evaluation. Talk about that.
Well, I decided after I was told, my situation, I wanted the best. So I flew out there. My daughter's there. I stayed with her. They did a week's evaluation on me. And what's kind of odd is they do no surgical procedures there. They don't do any lung transplants or anything. They just assess you and then refer you back to a hospital that they feel like you fit. My two were Barnes at St. Louis or Cleveland, Ohio. And of course I went with Barnes because it was closer to my home.
Sure.
But they did a very, very thorough job, and all of that information was sent to Barnes, and so they could have those procedures also to look at. Wow,
that's interesting. So then, after you are evaluated out there, they're telling you that you have 47% lung function. Is that right?
At that time, yes.
Wow, 47%. And then on Valentine's Day, you go on oxygen.
Yes.
And from that time forward, you are on oxygen the rest of the time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
24 hours a day, where I was on it just of an evening or a night. And then things started to deteriorate, as they did with Curt.
Mm-hmm.
And the key is you don't know how fast. So
Yeah. Well, talk about the emotional side of that. As you're deteriorating, you know it's hereditary. You know you didn't do anything to yourself in this situation. Your lungs are failing. You're on oxygen. They told you got 47% lung capacity. You're hoping to be a candidate for a lung transplant, but the emotion of that just had to be incredible.
It is. For both of us, I would say those are life-changing things. Reality sets in. The shock wears off. Reality sets in as to, are you going to make it or not? And you start evaluating things in a much different manner than what you had prior to, when you thought you were bulletproof. But the good Lord has a way of bringing you to your knees in about 2 seconds.
That's exactly right. And you mentioned you went to Barnes for that week of testing, and you wanted to do that because it was close to home. You did that in April of 2014. And then in May, you began therapy locally at Fairfield Memorial Hospital to try to slow the disease down somewhat so that you could hopefully get up on that list and get a lung transplant. Right?
That's correct, and try to stay healthy enough so that you were ready to go if and when they called in for the surgery.
And that's the key, is to be healthy enough, and really you faced that same thing too, didn't you, Curt? Because they don't automatically put you on the list, and when you had that LVAD, you weren't automatically put on the list for a heart. You had to get well enough with that LVAD to even be considered for a heart transplant, right?
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, they told me I wasn't eligible for a heart at 6 months in.
Wow.
From the LVAD, and, you know.
That had to be depressing.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they told me what I need to do, and it gave me a little incentive to pick it up.
Yeah, and you were also dealing with situations with swallowing, too. You had a lot of problems with swallowing and feeding tubes and things like that you dealt with, even above and beyond all the cardio stuff with the heart, right?
Yeah, I was out 56 days, and I lost all my motor skills as far as walking, talking, swallowing, and I didn't swallow anything for 9 months.
Wow.
You know, but therapy does it.
Yeah, everything being fed through a tube. Wow, that's amazing. All right, and so finally, back to Gary now. Gary, back finally on July 14th, they told you that you were eligible and you would be put on the list for a transplant. And that had to be a great feeling, knowing that you were now eligible to be on the list. Of course, you didn't know how long that list was or anything, but you're on the list.
That's correct.
So,
and you wait for a phone call. You live with a phone 24 hours a day, right, Curt?
And bag packed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the bag packed, that's right.
And so you're going through this therapy at Fairfield Memorial Hospital. You're trying to slow down the disease. Your lung function is continuing to decline. It's slowing down, but it's still declining. I mean, you're now well below 50% lung capacity.
Yes.
You need lungs bad.
Yes.
You need lungs if you're going to live.
Yes.
But you're on the list. And so finally, on July 29th, the phone call rang. Tell us what happened.
Well, they called, and it just so happened we were at St. Louis. I was over there for testing. I was in the Parkview Motel, and they called and asked if we could be there like at 7 that morning. And no problem. We walked across the street, and we were there,
Mm-hmm.
But that was also the most emotional day I've ever had in my life because it's called what you have is a dry run.
Mm.
The lungs came in. They were not acceptable to my doctors, but this took until 5 p.m. that night to make those decisions. So it was a total roller coaster. Yes, you're getting lungs. Maybe you're getting lungs. No, you're not getting lungs.
Oh, my goodness.
And that is absolutely the hardest day of all this journey I've ever had.
Wow. Pretty hard to process that when you get yourself all psyched up and thinking that, boy, here it is. I got the call. I'm going to go in for lungs. They prep you to get you all ready. You're waiting all day. And then what time was it when they finally came in and told you that?
It was about 5 that afternoon.
Wow. And you'd been there all day.
Been there all day. And ready to go. You're, as you say, you're psyched up, man. You want to get this done because you know the option.
Right.
There isn't one.
Right. So the lungs apparently were not healthy enough or big enough or whatever they were looking for. They just weren't acceptable to put inside of you, and so they passed on those. And so then I guess dejectedly you went home. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And waiting for the next call. At that time, though, I was on a 3-state list, and they put me on a nationwide list.
Mm.
I have AB positive blood, which is a rare blood type. I was the only one on that list with that blood type.
Oh, okay.
So it's a double-edged sword. But I only needed one donor for me to be healthy again.
Right. So in one aspect, it's when you have that kind of blood type, that can be that can be a downer, that can be a curse. But on the other hand, it puts you at the top of the list for the AB blood types.
Exactly.
But there aren't too many of those out there.
That's correct.
So you're right. It's a two-edged sword. Wow, what an amazing story that is, Gary. So just like Curt was struggling with other things in his life, the swallowing, the feeding tubes and things like that while he was on the LVAD, you start having some problems with your eye.
Yes, I did. I had to go in for emergency retina operation on Labor Day. They put a team together, told me to get to Evansville, that I could lose the sight in my eye. So they operated on me that day, and we came in that evening, probably 5 or 6 o'clock, and at 4:15 the next morning, I got the call from Barnes again for lungs. And
wow.
So, here you go again. Yes, we'll be there, and we were. They accepted me. They didn't think the eye would be any problem. In fact, the doctor gave me a choice. He said, "Are you willing to give up an eye if you can get lungs?" And I said, "Well, Doc, that's a no-brainer. Let's go for the lungs,
Right.
I can get around with one eye." And that's how that turned out.
So you go home from this retina surgery. I mean, this is just an amazing story. You go home from this retina surgery. You got a patch on your eye.
Exactly.
Okay? You're not even really fully recovered probably from the anesthesia of that surgery.
Was not, no.
And the phone call comes.
Yes.
And it's the real deal.
It's a real deal.
Wow. And so off you go to St. Louis again. And what time did that phone call come in?
It was approximately about 4:15 a.m.
In the morning.
Yes.
Wow.
Their question was, could I be there by 7?
Wow.
I said, we'll be there.
Okay. Well, so that takes us back to this photo right here. And again, you are in the hospital there in the ICU at Barnes. You have lung transplant, double lung transplant, and you can still see there's that patch over your eye.
Yes.
From the retina surgery.
Yeah. It really didn't matter. They had me knocked out.
But I also noticed something else in this photo, and I think this is something that you two guys have in common. They've got you all wrapped up on your hands and arms there with mittens and stuff. And why are they doing that?
Well, I guess the doctors and nurses told me the first night of this operation, which is the picture you're looking at, I decided to get up and go home. And I got out of bed and was trying to drag all that equipment with me. And needless to say, they put me back to bed and put me to sleep for 7 days. So they took care of that little problem real quick.
Yeah, well, Curt's here nodding his head because you kind of went through some of the same thing, didn't you, Curt?
Yes, I did.
You were wanting to get out of there too, weren't you?
They tied me down.
I think they actually put you in a little bit of a cage after a while. We may show that photo coming up here in just a little bit too. So you guys definitely have something in common there, and that's weird because I don't know if you're hallucinating because of all the medication you're on, or if you're just so tired of being picked and prodded and connected to tubes or what. But you just, it's the anxiety, isn't it? And you want to get out of there.
Yeah, but the positive side of that, I think too, is attitude is 95% of these operations. If you go in positive, a fighter, you're going to make it. Mm-hmm. If you go in and you're not sure or you have any questions, you better rethink it, you know. But we're both very positive like that. We're both fighters. And I think that, we decided we wanted to get up, so we got up, you know, and that just is part of that.
Sure, yeah. And that's some good advice for other people out there watching or listening right now that either may be facing something health-wise themselves, or a member of their family may be facing right now that they can take comfort in, and some good advice from you. Well, let's move on here and see what other photos that we have to share with our viewers here. So this is post-operation, Gary, and you got some special family members there with you.
Yes, that's Teresa, my wife, on the left, and Jill, my daughter, on the right. And that was Thanksgiving Day.
Wow.
And that was in the condo I stayed at after they had released me from the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were in ICU for 7 days after the double lung transplant. You were in an induced coma, and then you were released from Barnes and moved to the Highlands Loft condominium, where you stayed over there for quite some time trying to just recover and get your strength back, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and then I had to be in the hospital 5 days a week, so that was easier than trying to make a drive.
Yeah. So that photo really is amazing because, again, you had this double lung transplant on September 2nd, and this is Thanksgiving Day here, 2014, just, 2 short months later, and look at you. So
Well, and part of that, Randy, is both of those were caretakers for me. Jill flew in from Colorado with spelled Teresa off so she could come home some. My brother was involved with it. Jill's husband, Ron Walker, was involved with it. So my point there is you need good family and friend support, and we both had that totally.
Wow.
And that makes mentally a lot of difference also.
Yeah, you're really blessed by that.
We were both very blessed by that.
I know firsthand, Curt, having worked with your wife Judy, that she was gone from work for such a long time. I mean, so many weeks at a time, because you were in and out of the hospital so many times, having just a variety of problems while you had that LVAD and the feeding tubes and on and on and on. I mean, you were back and forth, in and out a lot. I mean, you know that road to Indianapolis very well, don't you?
Oh, very well.
Yeah.
She does it better.
But I know you're thankful for her and all that she's done, and being your caretaker and being there for you.
I couldn't pray for her anymore.
Yeah.
She's just there 7/24.
Yeah.
She always has been.
Yeah. Well, that's great. All right.
And it was tough on her.
Oh, I'm sure that it was. I know that it was. Yeah, because there's times that she really thought she was going to lose you.
Well, maybe.
No, I think there's times she thought she was going to lose you. And I'd say probably the same is true in your case. There's probably your family members wondered if you were going to make it, Gary.
Oh, they did.
You
Especially when you see what I looked like after the operation, and but they were there to support. And, here again, that means a tremendous lot to both Curt and myself in the respect of, somebody's there for you,
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, family, and not just the good doctors and nurses, but you got family there right there with you 24/7.
All right, so that picture again was around Thanksgiving time that was taken, and let's see what else that we have to show you here on the screen. Rehab. You're wearing the mask there. I assume this is after.
Yes.
Afterwards, after the operation, you have the new lungs, and you're doing rehab, trying to get strength and stamina back, right?
Yes.
And where are you doing this at?
That would have been there at Barnes.
Okay. All right.
While I was still there.
Okay. All right. And also we have some photos, I think, of other family members who we have here.
Oh, that's my granddaughter, Emma.
Great.
And both of those pictures, that's Emma again. I was on full oxygen at that time.
No kidding. Full oxygen. Okay. Boy, what a roller coaster ride for you, Gary. It's really been something. You were finally then after you had a brief setback and you went back in the hospital for a week there in Barnes. You got your strength back. You recovered, and you were finally released to go home in December.
That's correct. Right before Christmas.
What a Christmas present for you.
Best present in the world.
That's amazing.
Best present in the world.
And now you're back at work at the bank?
Yes, I am. I started back in there in January.
How about that?
On a part-time basis,
Yeah.
Because I felt like that would help me progress,
Yeah. Well, let's talk about also, we've talked about family. Let's talk about friends and coworkers, too, that you have there at Fairfield Banking Company, and how much those people have stood behind you and supported you and all that they've done for you, because that's been amazing, too, hasn't it?
It sure has. The board and the president of the bank and my coworkers were all there for me. Several of them came over and visited while I was there. Cards, thoughts, prayers, letters. As the old saying goes, it takes a village. And Curt and I both have had that from the community and from the places we had worked at, and just even people you don't know, churches praying for you. It's just overwhelming. It's overwhelming to the outpouring from the community to back us and help us.
The community was awesome. They were top. I mean,
tremendous.
Yes.
Neighbors mowing, just small things, mowing your yard, taking care of things that you don't think about when you're healthy.
So much we take for granted, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I always compare it to electricity. When it works, it's great. When you hit the switch and it doesn't come on, you miss it big time.
Yeah, that is exactly right. Well, now we've got a slide on the screen for those viewers who are watching on our YouTube channel or on cable TV. This is Curt and his wife Judy. And Curt, this is a photo taken right before you go in for your heart transplant. What are you feeling at that point?
Gosh, I was scared.
I bet you were.
Scared to death.
Yeah.
I was. I mean,
yeah.
What's going to happen? At the same time, I knew those batteries are gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes.
Yeah.
And
you just had to have faith at this point, didn't you?
oh, I did have faith.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we have some pictures after the surgery here that we want to share. And again, this picture is eerily familiar and similar to the same picture that we had of Gary. Look familiar to you, Gary?
Sure does.
Kind of looks like you as well, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does.
Yeah.
I can't tell the difference from here.
The only difference really is that Curt doesn't have a patch on his eye.
There
He
you
didn't have the
go.
retina surgery.
Yeah. There you go.
But I mean, you're hooked up to so many different tubes and things like that, and
Yep.
but you know, the surgery was a success. You have a new heart beating in your chest, and that's a short time after. And then I think we have another one that is a little bit after that. Oh, this is the cage that they put you in. We were joking a little bit about how both of you guys were trying to get up and leave,
Yeah.
and they put the mittens and and all the stuff on Gary. Well, they decided they're going to put something more on you. They put an actual cage on you there. They kind of wrap you up there in something to not let you go. What did you think of that?
Nah, I didn't like it at all.
He was really bad.
Yeah, I was bad. It's all for the best though, 'cause
Yeah.
I like to pull things out.
Yeah. And okay, we'll take you one more shot of that. Kind of looks like it might be something fun to play in, though, if you're a kid. I don't know. But now this is 2 weeks after the heart surgery. That new heart is beating in your chest, and Judy is in there seeing you in the room. And, of course, they're so concerned about germs and everything, as you might guess, and that's why she's got the mask on and that sort of thing. But 2 weeks after, so can you recall what you felt like at that time, 2 weeks afterwards? I mean, it's still kind of fresh, and
Yeah.
you're not wearing that LVAD anymore, so how'd you feel?
Oh, free. I mean, I was breathing, talking. I could do, everything but eat. I could eat then. I'll take that back.
Yeah.
But it was, gosh,
Mhm.
I can't put it in words sometimes.
Well, you had gotten so weak during the time that you were on that LVAD and things, and that machine was keeping you alive.
That's all that kept me alive.
Now that you've got a real human heart beating in you again, your strength is coming back.
My
isn't it?
energy's 100% better. My appetite, of course, and I am getting stronger.
Mhm.
I still have trouble with my coordination a little bit.
Mhm. Well, and again, as we look at this photo and some of them before, I mean, you'd gotten so thin, you'd gotten really rail thin, and the same with you too, Gary. I mean, both of you had gotten so skinny and thin through all of this because of what you were going through. And now, to look at you today, both of you are filling out again and looking so much healthier, and I know you have to feel so much better.
Oh yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
We measure our progress day by day. It's what
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
And thanks to the good Lord, we're both making strides towards that.
And I'm sure there's still bad days as well as good days. Or I should say maybe not such as good a days as you have other days, right?
We never have a bad day.
Right.
They're all good days.
They are.
Okay, that's a
They're
good
all
one.
good days.
We've talked about this many times.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are no bad days. If it's raining, that's liquid sunshine.
I love that. That's great. Well, let's point out the fact that you guys didn't really even know each other before all this started.
No, we didn't.
Even though you lived in the same community of Fairfield, town of 6,000 people, you really didn't know each other until this whole process was over. You had a new heart, Curt. Gary, you had a set of new lungs. And
Well, we met each other before, during waiting. Yeah,
and I think it was Judy that kind of brought you together.
exactly.
And so now you have this common bond, really, that you both have been through something that is just astronomical that most of us can't really comprehend or understand. And it's made you really good friends, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And both in the way of friends, but also support. And he understands what I've been through, and I understand somewhat what he's been through.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So after that, we got some photos here to show some other shots of you guys since all of that is behind you. But let's talk again for just a moment here about organ and tissue donation, because again, that's part of the crux of what we want to discuss and urge people to do is to sign the back of that license and that donor card and make yourself eligible for organ donation. And really, it doesn't even matter what age you are. Isn't that right, guys? It's never too late. You can still sign up. So if somebody is, let's say, 35 right now or something, and they said, well, I've always thought about doing that, but I've never done it. Now's the time to do it, right?
Exactly. It's never too late.
Nope.
And it's so easy to do it. Tell people how they can do that.
Well, as you mentioned before, they can go online
Mm-hmm.
to thelifegoeson.com.
Mm-hmm.
They can go into their Secretary of State's driver's license division and sign up, or they can call a 1-800 number 210-2106.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of ways to do this and make it easy, either physically in person or by phone or by computers.
Mm-hmm. And then it'll show up, of course, on the back of your driver's license that you are an organ donor, so that in the event that something does happen to you, and you make your family members aware, though, too, of what your wishes are,
yes.
obviously. But then if you would happen to be involved in something else away from your family, that might be some kind of an accident or something like that, people will know that you're an organ donor, and that's your request, is that you become an organ donor. And so, again, it's real easy to do, and you can find out more information by either visiting any of the Secretary of State offices or go online at lifegoeson.com. And we really want to encourage people to do that, because these two gentlemen today would not be here if somebody had not donated for them. There's some more pictures we have here, guys, of seeing life after all you've been through, and it's so nice to see the smiles on the faces and the happiness that's there, because you've been through so much during this time, and every day is certainly a blessing, isn't it?
Yes.
Every day.
Every day.
And that's why we call this Grateful for a Second Chance. Anything else that maybe we haven't covered that you guys would like to share or talk about during this time?
Well, like you said, it's never a wrong age to decide up. I mean, any age. I mean, it's you got a lot of stuff inside you that somebody might need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's just amazing what they can use today, and they're advancing that every day. It's just not lungs and heart; it's muscles and bone and eyes and a lot of part of the body. And I know that's gruesome, but it still saves lives.
Yeah, it does.
It still saves lives.
It does. But guys, it kind of parallels exactly what Jesus Christ did for all of us, because he died on the cross to save all of us from our sins, and that we can all have eternal life. And so what's happened here is you've got two people who were willing to say, hey, you know what? I'm willing to be an organ donor if something happens to me, so that I can help somebody else.
Yep.
And so that's exactly what these two individuals have done. We don't know who they are. You don't know who they are. I don't know who they are. Maybe someday you'll know, if you choose to. But it's a miracle, really, and it's phenomenal that those people did do that, particularly in your case, Gary, and when you're talking about somebody with an AB blood type, too.
Yes,
a rare
AB
blood
positive,
type, you
yes.
know. And so that even makes it more amazing that, because you had gotten down to the point, I believe you told me this once before, you had gotten down to the point where I think you said you were down to something like 15 or 20% lung function. I mean, they basically had given you just a couple of weeks left.
They had
right?
given me 2 weeks. I was down to 118 pounds.
Wow.
Full oxygen. I mean, just as much as you could get, you know. And that call came. And thank the Lord for that.
Mm-hmm.
I had one of the doctors tell me, I thank them over and over again, but they said 95% of it is your belief in God,
Mm-hmm.
and 5% might be the doctors, surgeons, and nurses, and then I still got to throw in a positive attitude with that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we're both. If you don't believe God makes miracles, look at us.
Yeah.
Because that's both what we are. We are
Yes, we are.
walking miracles today.
Yeah, you really are. And again, even though technology is a wonderful thing, and they make these wonderful machines like the LVAD that can act as your heart and help you beat and stay alive, and they have the wonderful oxygen machines and things like that to help you breathe. Those can sustain life for a while, but there's nothing that can duplicate or replicate the human body and the human organs and replicate God's creation, basically.
That's correct.
And that's what you have breathing in you and beating in you,
Yep.
respectively, that someone else gifted to you.
That's
and
right.
It's
And
truly amazing.
There can be no better blessing
Mm-hmm.
from a donor than the gift of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, that's just,
Yeah.
that's just the ultimate gift.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, you guys are continuing to take a lot of medications, I'm sure, and you'll
Yes.
probably have to continue to, because there's always that risk of rejection and that sort of thing. And so that's something that you just live with every day, and it's just part of your routine, right?
That's
Yes.
minor.
Yeah, very much
That's
so.
minor.
Mm-hmm.
I'll
Yeah.
take a pill every day to be alive and see the sun
Right.
come up. No problem.
Not a nuisance at all, then.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Nope.
That's all
Not
right.
at all.
Great.
Randy, I've got one other thought. I know we're getting
Sure.
close to the end, and I saw a saying today that really impressed me. And for the donors, it says, "To the world you might be one person, but to one person you might be the world." And I
Wow.
really, that hit home when I saw that. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
just a thought.
That is very good. That's very good. Again, we want to remind you again that if you are an organ donor, there are actually more than 25 people who can benefit from a single donor. And again, acceptable organs include not only the lungs and the heart, like we've talked about today with these two gentlemen, but also the liver, kidneys, pancreas, intestines, different tissues like skin, bone, corneas, tendons, heart valves, bone marrow, so much more. And again, don't get caught up or in the worry or the myths or anything like that sometimes have surrounded the idea of organ donation. It's more and more common than it's ever been before, but there's still need for more.
Very much
Because
so.
there are so many people who are on that list, gentlemen, that unfortunately their time comes and they run out of time before a donor is identified or found. And there's still more donors that are needed.
Yes, most definitely.
Always.
So again, we want to encourage that. Again, you can visit your Illinois Secretary of State's office. You can also go online at lifegoeson.com, or we certainly would encourage you to talk to either one of these guys. Talk to Gary or to Curt and ask them questions if you have questions, and they'll be happy to share with you and talk to you about them.
Very much so.
Anytime.
Okay. Guys, it's really been a pleasure to have you here on the program today. We've enjoyed so much of visiting with you, and it's great to see your progress. And every time I see each one of you, you look better and better all the time, and it's great to be alive, isn't it?
It sure is,
Yeah.
Randy. And we want to thank the Vine for having us
Yes.
and putting this program on to help it. And I told Curt coming over here and Judy, if we could reach out and touch one donor, we are so tickled to death.
Yes,
Absolutely.
We would hope for more than that, but one donor will make a difference in 25 people's lives.
It sure can. It certainly can. So again, we want to thank everybody for listening and watching today. And again, the segment has been called "Grateful for a Second Chance." And again, special thanks to both Curt Wood and Gary Griffith for joining us in studio today.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Randy.
guys. Appreciate it.